In chronicling my 7th grade stories, this was sort of the follow-up to the last one. I don't think this was as good as the last one, and it's shorter, but basically, this was also Beatles-inspired. The detail I will go into here, again, I already mentioned that the chain food was inspired by a real-life grocery store that was in my town, and it was a Pennsylvania chain that was closing, and they got bought out by Aldi, okay? Like, you know, big, mega grocery store, Aldi, okay? So, yeah, this was inspired by my local grocery store closing, and this was like the food chain, like the chain of a restaurant, or the store, and it was from New Jersey, because Penny Lane, Calandra Springside was in New Jersey, but this was in New York. This was one of my few stories to be set not in New Jersey from early on. A lot of things I write don't really have distinct settings anymore, and it's not about that. It doesn't matter what city or state it's in, because I used to make up towns. Now it's just kind of like, that I connected, I was just kind of like some random, like, I'll mention town names if it's, like, made up, but I don't usually, like, if I need to have a geographic location, I will, but it's not important. So, alright. So, I don't think this is quite as good as the Penny Lane one, which wasn't perfect or anything by any means. Still a huge step up from Dictionary Girl and that bullshit. So, I'm gonna start reading it. The book is called Strawberry Fields Forever. Blatantly just... I'm done trying to be subtle. So, yeah. Strawberry Fields Forever. Let's go. The following copyright page is a fake. This is a work of fiction. All characters and places are fictional. Each section begins with a song title, which is cited by performing artist and release date, in parentheses. Text copyright and I didn't actually do illustrations. Copyright 2015 by Sarah Priest. All rights reserved. Published by blah blah blah. I made up a publishing company, but it has my town name in it, so. Alright. Summary. Rebecca Gates lives in a small town called Strawberry Fields. The local grocery store is closing, and determined Rebecca has a plan to save the store. 1. Small towns, fiction. Grocery stores, fiction. Nature lovers, fiction. Girls, fiction. 4. And I mentioned my chain. And Aldi, food and grocery boy. All the early risers who eat cornflakes, and all the people who love strawberries, and all the rosmarines in the world, and to... What? Oh, and to Golda Green, my tree, because I had a tree. Anyway, so rosmarine, so we'll get into that. Somehow I heard somewhere that, like, okay, rosmarine was, like, an obscure word for walrus. I don't know if that's true or not. It was some trivia game, so I jumped on this. I don't know why. And maybe it's, like, Latin or something. I don't know. But I kind of jumped on this. So anyway... Alright, Strawberry Fields Forever, The Beatles, 1967. My name is Rebecca Gates, and I live in Strawberry Fields, New York. I have dark brown hair and a ponytail halfway down my back, brown eyes, and brown tennis shoes. My mom likes to put me in olive green, and I think that amber is more of my color. My good luck charm is my pink strawberry racer, because I like to be connected with my town, and strawberries are kind of important here. I'm going to give you the overview of the town's history. It all started in 1968 when a guy named Barry Fields moved to this town, which was called Oak Hill at the time. He started Barry's Cornflake Company with a big factory in the town, which he expanded. It is still a really tiny town, mostly nature, except for the factory and the stores on Main Street. The town cereal, which is made in the factory where my dad works, is called Morning Crunch, and it is basically cornflakes loaded with dried strawberries. I like it, but some people don't. It all depends on whether or not you like cornflakes. Barry himself left the Cornflake Company many years ago to go into retirement. He died the day I was born, so some people think I have bad luck, but I don't believe in luck. I have been told that Barry was not a conceited man, and he didn't want to draw attention to himself by naming the town after himself, but he had friends who wanted him to name the town Barry Fields, so he set a compromise and named the town Strawberry Fields, which sounds like a Beatles song, Strawberry Fields Forever, but of course nobody would actually say that because other towns would get jealous. There are not many businesses in town, just the usual things. A grocery store, a library where Mom works, the post office, the bank, and the movie theater. Also, we have some quirky businesses like every other small town in the world, like the lady who sells nothing but tomato pincushions and the guy who makes and sells seasonal items like pre-carved jack-o'-lanterns. There are not many houses either. I live in one on the few streets in town. There are odd complexes of streets like the Zygle, which is a complex of 3 streets which make up the letter H. The word Zygo literally means anything shaped like the letter H. I learned this from a game called Balderdash, yep, there it is, where I also learned the word Rosmarine, which is another word for walrus. One of the Zygle streets is called Egg Street because of the Eggman and I Am the Walrus, Rosmarine, from the Beatles' Magical Mystery Tour, where Strawberry Fields Forever appeared. It's fine if you don't know what I'm talking about. I'm still supposed to be explaining the town, so I will tell you that the center of the town is Berry Lake, which is shaped like a strawberry if you look at it upright on a map. Next to the lake is Berry Lake Park, where my maple tree is. I call it my tree, but I don't own it. I just love climbing it. There is a playground at Berry Lake Park, and in the summer you can swim in the lake if your parents are not germ maniacs. Berry Lake is not chlorinated. On the other side of Berry Lake is Strawberry Fields and Gardens, where I played when I was little. Nowadays, I like to climb the big pine tree. It is tall, 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 tall. Alto, alta, altus, altus. Okay, I'll explain that. One time, I climbed the tree in the winter, and I fell out and got a mild concussion because it was icy. So Mom said no more trees in the winter. This book is about how I almost saved the grocery store, but I had to save a tree instead. This chapter cannot go on forever. The tall, tall, tall thing was, we would practice Spanish. Alto, altas, because there's different forms, and they all meant tall. So, anyway, so this story is kind of weaker compared to the last one, I think, but actually I think the writing is slightly better. It's just me. I'm judging my own work here. I'm not saying any of this stuff is good. I do have a fond place for a lot of it because I wouldn't be where I'm at now with my writing without this. Alright. Avalanches, A Fine Frenzy, 2007. So I was super into A Fine Frenzy, who was this singer, and she, I'm not, like, as into her anymore. She hasn't released new music in a while, but her real name is Alison Sudol. And if you look her up, she plays Queenie in the Fantastic Beasts movies. She is now an actress, but she used to record under the stage name A Fine Frenzy. And she was a nature lover, and she made a lot of music. I think kind of like Feist, except more out there. Okay, anyway. Alright. Last year, in 2014, my favorite singer was A Fine Frenzy, which is the stage name of Alison Sudol, a female singer who loves nature and writes about it. I played her music for my tree, a girl, and the big pine tree, a boy. I like to give the trees gender. I think that maple and fruit trees are girls, and oaks, pines, and sycamores are boys. I still can't tree climb in the winter, but it gets snowy, so winter is very beautiful. But they always greenhouse strawberries, even though the crop is always replanted in springtime. Winter will be very important in this book because that is the climax of my story, which started on July 22nd, 2014, when I heard the news that food was closing. At this time, I was 12 years old and about to start 7th grade at Strawberry Fields Middle School, but in the summer, I spent my time outdoors. On this particular day, I was sitting on the top of Strawberry Hill looking down at Barry's Cornflake Company and Strawberry Fields. I noticed a falling rock sign at the bottom of the hill by Into Town Road. I tried not to worry about the falling rock. I was thinking of A Fine Frenzy when she said, "Don't be scared of avalanches." I turned around to face Moon Valley and the town of Crescent Moon. Most of my school friends come from Crescent Moon. Right at that moment, I saw my best friend from Crescent, Chrissy, coming up the hill. Chrissy quickened her pace when she saw me. She was running so fast that I knew that something was wrong. "Becca!" yelled Chrissy. "What?" I asked when she came near enough to talk to. "I just heard from Anna, who heard from Megan, who heard on the radio that Food is closing in January." Food was our local grocery store, and it was the only grocery store anywhere near Strawberry Fields. It was a chain which extended down to New Jersey, where they opened and closed the first Food in a town called Calandra, but that is not my story. I stood there saying nothing. Then I said goodbye to Chrissy, and without replying to her news. Okay, that was a little bit messed up. I didn't need to tell my parents because they found out pretty quickly. In a town this small, gossip is common. I thought that I would devise a plan to save Food, but the plan I came up with, it seemed like a good idea at the time, wouldn't have worked. But if you want to read about my silly attempts, keep reading. I thought that about the food workers and how much they wouldn't want their store to close, and so I asked a worker if he could tell the manager that they needed someone else to lock the doors, like maybe the head of Grocery Boy. Grocery Boy is the company which bought food. If the head of Grocery Boy came here to lock the doors, then I could do something. It's a really dumb plan, by the way. Like, it's dumb that I was still heavily relying on plot convenience here, and I still do it. It's like movies, like stuff I write. It's like, oh, like I always have weird coincidences and plot conveniences in my stories, but like I was heavily relying on plot convenience here, a lot more so than I do now. Also, I was listening to a lot of Christian music, so this next chapter is called Say It, Britt Nicole, 2007. I'm here to explain my plan that I had when I was trying to save food. My plan was complicated and simple at the same time. I would go to food a few minutes before the official closing. I had told a food worker to make sure the head of Grocery Boy came. I was hoping that the food employees would not be willing to lock the doors themselves and Mr. Grocer, the head of Grocery Boy, would really do it, but I thought that I was pretty persuasive. I would go to food and buy something so that I could act like a normal customer. I would probably be the last customer buying the last thing in the store. It would probably be the last toothbrush, but I didn't care. I would buy it anyway. I would have to get a food employee to reserve something for me in order for this to work, but it would be easy enough. I would go out the exit and stand by the heater to get warm before Mr. Grocer came. All the food people would leave. I would wait for Mr. Grocer and I wouldn't move. I would wait until somebody called the police if I had to. I would wait for Mr. Grocer, and when he came, I would give him a good talking to and see if he would bring food back or rehire somebody and put them in his store. Strawberry Fields needed a grocery store. I would say that I would stand there, and this is one of my proudest moments from writing early on. I would stand there even if my house was burning down. I would stay there if the sky was falling. I would stand my ground if somebody important died. I would not move if a magical mystery tour came to take me away or the police pulled me up by my hair. I would not leave if a famous celebrity was coming to town. I would not leave if a volcano exploded over my head. I would stay there if a lion came to eat me. If the ground split open underneath food, I would go down with it. A lot of people have told me that I'm the most persistent person they know. That is true. I went to food and asked the worker to reserve strawberries. He asked, why? We don't want any produce going bad on the last day. I want to be your last customer. I would like to reserve a 1-pound package of strawberries. Why? Asked the guy again. I just want the last customer honor. I'm not even thinking about the last day yet. It's only August. Just tell the manager to save out a package of strawberries. Why? You know why. But why? You already know. And I left. I would speak to the manager later. I would have to make sure that food closed on the weekend because of school stuff in January. Okay, she would have no control over that. Why? Asked the food manager. It just makes more sense to close on the weekend. I'll think about it. And save out a package of strawberries for the last day. I will be your last customer. I wouldn't miss it for anything. So, again, plot convenience. I should have just made it convenient that they were closing on the weekend. She shouldn't have asked them to close it. Like, what? That doesn't work. No. Okay, I'm sorry, Sarah. You're a bad writer. It's not that the writing itself is bad, it's that the... So I was also listening to the Frozen soundtrack a lot at the time. So, in summer, Frozen soundtrack, 2013. August is beautiful here. Last August was just as beautiful as any August that I could remember. For most of the summer, I sat in the strawberry field and read good books such as Little Women, The Hobbit, and Watership Down. The last was my favorite. It was a novel about rabbits and seriously wonderfully written by Richard Adams. And the story, the runt rabbit who had visions, told the other rabbits that danger was coming to their warren. So a group of bucks left the doomed warren in search of a new home. They found a home, but they realized they didn't bring any does, so they had to go to another warren to find does, but the warren was under dictatorship. I won't say any more. If you're curious, you'll have to read the book. In the fall, when I wasn't at school, I was reading Harry Potter and the Lord of the Rings. When I wasn't reading, I was scheming and dreaming about my possible success in saving food or bringing another grocery store to Strawberry Fields. My mom works in the town library, so I read a lot of books, obviously, because that's what you do if your mother is a librarian. The other thing I did in summer and autumn was climb trees a lot, because I can't do that in the winter because Mom swears that I will get another concussion, but I know I won't because I'm such a skilled tree climber and because I am the carefulest person on the planet. The leaves turned orange and red and yellow as the summer faded into fall. At Strawberry Fields Middle School, I made a new friend named Bella who thought it was really cool that my nickname matches her name except for the fact that I have C's and she has L's. I thought it was cool too, but my best friend was still Chrissy. It got cold and I began to worry about food. Mom said we can go to Walmart, but Walmart is in Green Hill, which is 20 minutes away. The Green Hill shopping center is frightening. I mean, I am always overwhelmed. There is Walmart and the mall and Target and McDonald's all crammed into this tiny little space, and it makes me claustrophobic. I really don't like Green Hill Shopping Center because I am a very claustrophobic person, although I did get some nice things at Green Hill Mall. In the summer here, there is a farmer's market, so people think it's just really rural, but you don't think that once you go right down Route 64 and see Green Hill with your own eyes. Again, I was just desperate for friends. I always made my characters have friends in these stories. Alright. The Time in Between, Francesco Battistelli, Christian artist, 2008. In the fall, I went to school. I started piano lessons and actually enjoyed them because my teacher let me play whatever I wanted once I learned my basic piano skills. Mom enrolled me in a traditional Irish dancing class, haha, where I learned real steps, but the best part was the fact that Chrissy was in my class. It was really, really hard. I kept reading books that Mom got me from the library, and before I knew it, it was Halloween. I was unsure of what to dress up as, although I was certain I did not want to be another Frozen Elsa because every girl I knew who was under the age of 10 and some who were older was dressing up as Elsa. Chrissy flat out refused to dress up, so I had no one to go trick-or-treating with. Bella invited me to her Halloween party, but she said I had to dress up, so I went as a fine frenzy, as a blonde wrapped in a blanket. I thought about going as a giant strawberry or walrus, but I thought that I was too old for such fancies. Of course, going as a fine frenzy meant I had a lot of explaining to do. On Thanksgiving, we visited my cousins, and I read A Wrinkle in Time over vacation. It was a really awesome book. I hope you will like it. We ate turkey and other Thanksgiving food, but we thought it was delicious. But we had Mom's strawberry jam instead of cranberry sauce. Everybody thought it was delicious except for my 4-year-old cousin Bessie, who didn't like the strawberries instead. Instead, she ate a bowl of whipped cream, which made her sick. Poor Bessie, said Aunt Nell. Bessie, we don't eat whipped cream. December was dull because it wouldn't stop snowing, so we couldn't get out for anything except school, and when we did get out, we had to go Christmas shopping at Green Hill. We had a weird, warm day which melted the snow, so we had a green Christmas. On Christmas morning, I got a pair of strawberry socks. No kidding. Magical Mystery Tour, a wrapped box of cornflakes, and a book about Barry Fields. My parents think that I'm really into town history, but I'm not. And Magical Mystery Tour really has nothing to do with town history except for Strawberry Fields Forever, which I listened to. Mom tried to make it up to me by getting a Fine Frenzy's album Bomb in a Birdcage, which I played to death. Bella used Magical Mystery Tour more than I did, because whenever she was over, I let her pick our dance party music. Then again, Magical Mystery Tour is not important. I have to get down to business and tell you about how I tried to save Strawberry Fields from no-foodium. Well, Magical Mystery Tour may be important to you, but if you want to know what happened to food, then I suggest you keep reading. I must inform you, that winter, the town was doing renovations on Berry Lake Park.